Welcome everybody to lecture 13. We have seen in the previous discussion that with the space coordinates x, y, z and time coordinate t, we can form a four-dimensional space-time continuum, which is called Minkowski space, where from a point 0 origin, s squared, that is to say c squared t squared minus x squared minus y squared minus z squared, or in another notation, x naught squared minus x1 squared minus x2 squared minus x3 squared, is an invariant quantity under Lorentz transformations. Thus, in this Minkowski space, the length of a four vector is defined. Now, x mu in lecture 13, page 67, x mu is a four vector. The four coordinates x0, x1, x2, x3 define the tip of the fourth vector, which is the position vector in this space. And we all know that the length s squared equal to x0 squared minus x1 squared minus x2 squared minus x3 squared is invariant under Lorentz transformation, and x0 and x1 for motion in the x direction of a different frame s prime, x0 and x1 transform according to the Lorentz transformation prescriptions given in equation 123. The question is, this is a position four vector whose Lorentz transformation property is like this. Naturally, any other physical quantity with four components, one time and three space, will qualify as a four vector when its zeroth component and first component, for example, will transform in ways identical to x0 and x1 when one is moving, when is shifting from frame S to frame S prime. Can we identify such quantities? The first example that comes our way, and the one we'll discuss today, is a momentum four vector. It turns out that the three components of the momentum of an object and the time component called energy form a four vector, one of the components scaled by a c, and that is defined in equation 129. Now we have to prove this. If we look at equation 130 and subsequently equation 131, 130 has two parts. 131, you will see that the length of the four vector defined by the components E over C as time and momentum as space part, the length of the four vector is m naught squared times c squared. This is a slight modification of a result we have already derived, namely E squared minus P squared C squared equal to m naught squared C4. This tells us that this four vector also is time-like because the square defined in this fashion is greater than 0, as we have discussed previously. The question now is, if it is to be a four vector, does it transform under Lorentz transformation in the stipulated manner? Then the transformation has to be according to equation 131. But we want to prove it explicitly. This proof, of course, I'm not going through step by step. This I leave to you. Just think of an object moving with speed u along x, along the x-axis in the frame S, and a small time delta t elapses. Then you follow the next steps and find that at the beginning of this interval of delta t and at the end of it, we can call it two events. I mean, the location of the object or the particle defines two events. So delta S squares is the interval square between these two events in Minkowski space, supposedly and provenly a constant under Lorentz transformation, invariant under Lorentz transformation, the invariant length of the four vector, because it is the difference of two vectors, two coordinates squared in Minkowski space. Thus, you have equation 132, where you encounter a new quantity defined by delta S squared is given by C squared delta T squared over gamma U square, where gamma U square is 1 minus U square by C squared to the power half. This tells us that a quantity defined as delta T over gamma U is nothing but a time dilation in the frame of the moving object moving with speed U in frame S. So that is the moving time interval as measured in the rest frame of the moving object. And this is called the proper time interval. And this is equal to the quantity delta S squared. So therefore, the proper time interval may have different expression in frame S prime, but that also will be equal to squared is related to delta S squared. So delta S squared as given in terms of the coordinates in S prime will again be related to the proper time interval in the identical manner. So thus, if you define as in equation 133 a quantity K in terms of gamma factor in the according to the velocity measured in frame S and delta T is in S, then I have written by mistake S prime on the left below equation 133, it should be S, correct me. And that is gamma U over delta T times M naught, and that we call K, but that is also equal to K prime as written in terms of gamma U delta T in S prime coordinate system or S prime frame. The very fact that the proper time gets related to delta S squared, whatever its expression be in the two Lorentz frames, tells us that K is equal to K prime. Having known this, you write down equation 134, basically intervals and their Lorentz transformations as far as the X and T coordinates are concerned. And this we have discussed earlier. We should remember that in this algebra, these V's and U's define different velocities, and gamma V is the relative velocity of frame S prime with respect to S. It has nothing to do with the velocity of the object moving. That is U in frame S, U prime in frame S prime, and V is the relative velocity. So the 1 minus V squared by C squared that is occurring in equation 134 has nothing to do with this gamma U and gamma U prime as we have defined in the context of the proper time interval. In fact, in the subsequent calculations, U and U prime do not occur explicitly. What occurs is V, the velocity between the two coordinate systems or two Lorentz frames, which defines the Lorentz transformation prescriptions. The U velocity in frame S and U prime velocity in frame S prime, they are implicit in the momentum expressions. Now, if we follow the algebra for a few more steps, which is basically substitution of this into that and that into that, it leads to a set of equations 136 to 139, whose follow-up leads you to equation 140, yielding the transformation property of Px, Py, Pz, and E over C. And you can see that the prime values transformed with respect to the unprimed values precisely according to the Lorentz transformation prescription. Therefore, E over C and a 3 momentum P form a 4 vector. This is called 4 momentum vector and is called P mu as defined in equation 141. Of course, one has to remember that in this space also, the scalar product of two vectors is a scalar. In Minkowski space, the inner product is defined in the following manner. In any linear vector space, in principle, you can define an inner product, not in all of them. In those spaces where you can do it, is called an inner product space. I'm not going into mathematical details, but the Minkowski space can be demonstrated to be an inner product space. The only thing is that their inner product has 4 components instead of 3. This is number one. Secondly, as you see by comparing equation 142, the inner product of 3 vectors in 3-dimensional space, Euclidean space, with the inner product in 4-dimensional space in equation 143, these 4 terms also carry a relative minus sign between the time part multiplied and the 2 space parts multiplied. This is obvious because when you take s squared equal to c squared t squared minus blah blah blah, s squared is basically the inner product of a position vector with itself in that space. So by default, what is invariant is an inner product which has the space and the time parts coming with a relative minus sign. Going along the prescription, A mu B mu is A0 B0 minus A1 B1 plus A1 A2 B2 plus S3 A3 B3, the last 3 terms within a bracket. This is how inner product in Minkowski space is defined. So this, of course, is an invariant quantity under Lorentz transformation because the index mu gets what is called contracted. Mu summed over. This is not a homework, but I ask you to kind of suggest that you take the exercise written after that, where the position 4 vector and the momentum 4 vector are written next to each other, and you may try to show that their inner product is a Lorentz invariant quantity. Once you show that, we can proceed to the next topics, which will be the subject of the next lecture, something to do with some further quantities of physical interest in Minkowski space in the 4 vector notation, which will help us in handling special relativity in a more sophisticated notation, most of which you will probably use in the next few years of your study, but let us lay the foundation at this level itself. So that's where we end. Thank you very much.